It's fair to say that you faced significant personal and professional challenges. What role did your entrepreneurial mindset play in overcoming them?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I was very young. During the course of my marriage, I bought a dysfunctional business that I was working in. Then I was training for a marathon and got diagnosed with breast cancer. I decided to take on 100% of the debt, which equated to $1.3 million of debt, which, yes, it was a learning lesson. And if someone ever asked me, hey, would you buy a business back from bankruptcy? I'd say, you know what? Let it go start a new one. And then I turned it into a award-winning business and I actually sold it during the pandemic.
Welcome back to Storefront Strategies. So we've got Brigette Sobus with us today, and I always like to start off by asking the guest to give us a 60-second pitch of who you are and what you do.
So great to be here with you, Lee. My name's Brigette Sobus. I am the owner and founder of Power Joy Coaching Academy. And I love working with women entrepreneurs that have been stressed, burnt out, overwhelmed, people pleasing, possibly representing their own businesses to reinvent their lives with power, joy, and profits. I am a accredited certified trainer of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. I'm also a coach with the International Coaching Federation. So I have many different coaching certification programs. And also, I love to do one on one breakthrough work with women that produce quantum leap results in their lives, whether it's being triggered by other people or money and all the things. So that is little bit about what I do.
It's really very thorough. It's really interesting to see how much that you've put into it with the certification and the training that you've done.
Yeah, I think I have almost 20 different types of coaching certification under my belt.
Yeah, I think you definitely know what you're doing at that, which is lovely to see because I think there's an issue at the moment in the industry of people being quite shallow with their learning, that they learn it and they try and reteach it straight away. So it's lovely to see some depth to what you're
Oh,
doing.
thank you. I appreciate that. I received that.
It's fair to say that you faced significant personal and professional challenges, including divorce, breast cancer, and bankruptcy. How did you navigate these adversities, and what role did your entrepreneurial mindset play in overcoming them?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Well, we'll start with the divorce. Yeah, I'll start with my divorce. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I was very young. I got married at the age of 30. And back then, you don't do necessarily background checks on people. And I believe I didn't. I just trusted, you know, that everything was going to be great. So during the course of my marriage, I bought a dysfunctional business that I was working in. I was a hair colorist making a six-figure income. And I was like, if he can own a business, there's no reason why I can't. And I decided to buy the business and I became a dysfunctional mess and hired my first coaching consultant. So this was back in 2006. And then I turned it into a award-winning business. And throughout that, I had unfortunately found out that two buildings that we owned the mortgages weren't getting paid. Unfortunately, my ex has actually passed and I've done a lot of forgiveness work on him, but unfortunately he was a drug addict and he wasn't paying the mortgages and we had all the financial hardships actually was hiding from me. So I decided to get a divorce from him, and that took about 2 years. I will tell you, one of the things that supported me on getting through that divorce was becoming a certified coach. So I went through that was my first coach training program that I went to become a certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. I remember meeting one of my first mentors and I was like crying and I was like, I'm a life coach. And I was like the biggest hot mess. So becoming a coach and going through that process completely supported me on getting through the divorce. So when people say, I want to be a coach, but I have to get my own life together, there's not a better time to become a coach because as you're becoming a coach, you actually get your life together.
Two-way progress.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the ways that really supported me on navigating through the divorce part. So then after I did get divorced and I was healing myself from emotionally, then I was training for a marathon in 2015 and got diagnosed with breast cancer for the first time. What got me through that was, as an entrepreneur and having a small business, it's very important to have systems and structures in place. So I was able to step away from my business and take a leave of absence for 7 months and heal my body and go through chemo and surgery and take care of my well-being. So systems and structures supported me on that journey. And then going through the bankruptcy, well that was a very challenging year for me because I found out in order to get out of my divorce, I decided to take on 100% of the debt, which equated to $1.3 million of debt. So personal debt. And I was, in my business at the time was very successful and it was profitable, award winning. And I was also a coach and consultant for other business owners. And facing that bankruptcy, I was like, well, I could be at risk for losing my business that I worked so hard for. So I had lots of advice from attorneys and even my parents and family were like, you got to get from under this. So I decided to file. And then I decided to buy my own business back, which, yes, it was a learning lesson. And if someone ever asked me, hey, would you buy a business back from bankruptcy? I'd say, you know what? Let it go and go start a new one. However, at the time, I was super ego driven. I was like, no one is going to take my business away from me. I'll leave it on my own terms. So that year was pretty tough for me in 2019 working on buying it back. So I was working my butt off doing consulting and coaching work, but I was like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, so then that led me to finally at the end of that coming up to the beginning of 2020, I really decided to make some hard decisions. And I was like, you know what? This business actually is not serving me anymore. The universe has a very interesting way in giving us lessons. So I decided to put the salon on the market and I actually sold it during the pandemic.
That's impressive. You've had really a huge journey. How did your entrepreneurial mindset sort of fit in with that?
The first introduction I actually had to being like, "Oh, I could be an entrepreneur," was like reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was like the stepping stone, and that was even back when I was 27. I really wanna say systems help and then getting support outside of myself. As an entrepreneur, I believe that having people in your corner, like coaches and consultants and attorneys and accountants, and then learning new skill sets to get out of your own way is part of the entrepreneurial mindset that works. Being flexible with, like, okay, so this didn't work. What lessons am I going to learn? And what's been missing so that I can implement, so that I can pivot and take it to another level. Having flexibility and really just owning what had happened and taking responsibility. I call it's like either you're going to be at the cause for things that happen in your life or you're going to be at the effect. So, and I'm kind of one of those people just by nature. I'm like, I'm going to prove it and I'm going to do it, and go for what I want.
So you said that in 2020 you sold your award-winning salon and you really have reinvented yourself by launching the Power and Joy Coaching Academy. So what was it that actually drove this decision? And how have you successfully pivoted your career during really a really transformative period?
Yeah, gosh, and when I think back from 2019 to my life now, it's seriously been transformed in like a whole nother level. So, as I was like completing 2019, I started reaching back out for help and put it on the market. And, being a coach, I always had breakthroughs, but there was a missing. Like I would have breakthroughs and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, I finally had this breakthrough. And then something would trigger me and I would get snapped back like a rubber band. Like nothing was ever good enough. I was always like the next, the next. I was a people pleaser. I couldn't stand people being upset or mad at me. I would hold on to a lot of anger, even though I covered up really well. A lot of people that didn't know me really, really well, like they would never know that I was angry, especially around my divorce and having to file bankruptcy and all the things. So I sold it and then I started going back into therapy. I had a coach and then I had a mentor that I had worked with in the past. And she would always say, like, and I'm a master of NLP. And I had no idea what she was talking about, but I looked up to her. So I thought to myself, all right, it's time to get this NLP certification. So I found a company and they were also like, you're going to get certified in hypnosis. And I was like, okay, hypnosis sounds weird because I had tried meditation before and it wasn't for me. And then, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go for this program because it felt right. My intuition was like, you got to take this class. And I had like this feeling, I'm like, I feel like this is the thing that's going to like switch is gonna flip up and it's gonna stay up. Because I used to have this running joke that, like, sometimes I just wish I could get a lobotomy because I couldn't disconnect myself from my emotions. They would be, like, overcoming me. So I'm halfway through my certification program, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh my gosh, do I not feel this way anymore? Am I not upset at that? Is the anger finally gone? Is this person not triggering me anymore?" And I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to train this work. So I graduated from that program and then I did a deep dive. I got my master certifications. I got my train the trainer certifications. I'm not even kidding. Within 6 months, I launched the Power and Joy Coaching Academy and I did my first certification training. So it was, when you talk about quantum leaps, that was like probably the fastest quantum leap I've ever had.
I don't think your feet touch the floor.
I know. That's kind of how it felt.
So your coaching academy emphasizes empowerment, leadership, and holistic transformation. What key strategies have you employed to build a successful coaching business? And how do you support your clients in achieving their personal and professional goals?
Yeah, and I love sharing this because so I launched Power and Joy Coaching Academy in October of 2021. I was at the time I was still contracting through another coaching and consulting company. So I resigned from that company and then now at the beginning of 2022, 100% resigned. Now I'm left to my own devices. I was diagnosed with breast cancer for a second time. And I was like, are you kidding me? I just launched like my dream company. I'm healing. I love my life. And because of the work I do, I had the most emotionally healthy year I've ever had. And I worked 50% less than I normally would. And I made over 6 figures in revenue. And I was able to go through radiation, chemo, and surgery. So I really related to, well, my mindset, having emotional intelligence, and I'm all about networking. I network, I reach out to people, I nurture relationships, I follow up with people, I have sales calls. I'm really, really good. So that's how I built my business like 2 years in a row, just by organically networking. And a lot of people out there, they have that, they have the I'll just say fear, like, they're like, "Oh," or they're, like, worried about judgments, like, they reach out to somebody once, and if the person doesn't reach back out to them, they're like, "Oh, they don't want my service." Well, people just it's nothing personal, people just get busy. Yes, maybe someone doesn't want your service, but there's a lot of people out there, you have to be consistent, and you have to be with it. So, I have used that as a best practice, and I teach my own students that I coach to become coaches and train, that's their first and foremost is networking, nurturing, and building relationship. That is one of your biggest allies and assets of building a business. Grassroots stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Networking is one of those things I know I have to do, but I don't like because I'm an introvert and I find it very difficult to be in a room of people I don't know. And my colleague will just walk up to a group and go, hello. And he's fine. And he just does it. And I'm sure that if I did that, I'd stop breathing or something. It's just, I definitely have the fear when it comes to networking, but it's something that's on the list that I really need to conquer.
Yeah. I could support you with that.
So I know we've looked at it briefly, but I would like to really go into a little bit more depth with what you've mentioned experience as the dark night of the soul in 2019. How did this period of introspection and challenge influence your approach then to business and life? And what lessons can aspiring entrepreneurs learn from you?
Yes, 2019, I coined Dark Night of the Soul year. That was the year I was quote unquote trying to buy my business back. And things were just not going my way. I thought as much as I was being authentic and vulnerable with my team at the time on where I'm at, like, and then like I had to walk out of my salon. It was just, yeah, things were not going well. And I was actually even had like, we're all free and clear of this, but I really had dark thoughts like, what is the point of anything type stuff. But then when I gratefully snapped out of it and then started getting help, I would say, as far as an entrepreneurial mindset is like having compassion and grace with yourself is first and foremost. I call it being deliciously selfish. We have to pour into ourselves first and learn how to put healthy boundaries down, have emotional intelligence, take care of ourselves. So we're filling up our cup first. So then we're like the best versions of ourselves for everybody else in the whole wide world, whether that's an employee, a colleague, client, family, significant other, children, animals on the street. I don't know. But like, it's really having an entrepreneurial mindset. My first and foremost is you must take care of yourself first. Because I was just coaching someone this morning and I'm like, if a car has zero gas in it, it's not going to go anywhere. You got to you got to put yourself up first. And it's so easy to have somebody else's urgency become our urgency or someone else's drama become our drama. And it's just having that bandwidth and being able to unhook yourself. So you really put yourself first. So mindset is one of the first and foremost things to work on. And then, yes, you have to have systems, policies, and procedures and those types of things to run a key turn business. So then they start going hand in hand and then they work beautifully together.
So if there was one piece of wisdom that you could pass on to new and aspiring entrepreneurs that are especially looking at doing brick and mortar businesses, what would you say to them?
Whether, I mean, even if it's brick and mortar or it's an online business, 100% get a mentor. Work with someone that is like at least 3 to 5 steps ahead of you so that you can also learn and grow with them. Have a growth mindset so that you are learning to be flexible. Now, I live by this. It's actually an NLP presupposition, it's called, but there's no failure, there's only feedback. I live by that every day of my life. So when a breakdown happens, my best practice is, okay, I feel my feelings naturally because now I can just if I get angry, which is seldom, but when I do, now it's like I get angry for like maybe 5 minutes. So I feel them naturally. One thing is there's no shoving down feelings. Have your feelings, give yourself even maybe, I don't know, you want to have them for a day, an hour, 5 minutes, whatever. And okay, then it's like, what lessons am I learning? What happened? What are the positive things I'm learning about myself? Then what is the inspired action I'm going to get into so that I shift and I pivot and have flexibility? That's my formula that I like to live by every single day. So that would be something that I would definitely recommend to all entrepreneurs is yes, you got to work on your emotional intelligence, get a mentor, have flexibility, and put systems and procedures in place.
Perfect. So how can people get in touch with you?
Probably one of the easiest ways would be on Instagram at Coach Brigette Sobus. I definitely check my DMs. I just got a message today. Or I email Brigette@BridgetteSobus.com.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us today. I'm just overwhelmed by the journey that you've come through, and you're so positive and there's so much energy now. It's just a pleasure to speak to you.
Oh, my pleasure too, Lee. Thank you.